Part 2 of meeting. Okay.
So for just to reiterate, there would be like 3 different types of these classifications. There's this like this broad topic, there's this keywords, and then there's this other like over classification thing that's happening, right? That should be implemented.
I don't think we would have broad topic and because that would be captured in the.
Okay.
I think once we decide something is significant enough, classify it thoroughly.
Okay.
I think that's the thinking.
Okay. Let's see. So I guess.
Yeah, and Kevin, I had another kind of point about UX, and I think this was one of the main points of feedback that we got when we actually talked with the analysts, which is that the spreadsheets have one nice feature that allows you to copy down rows from above, especially because a lot of the times the way in which kind of the algorithm goes through the diffing happens that similar pages end up next to each other, and sometimes they just happen to have very similar diffs or types of changes, and so you actually want to just classify the same way as the previous one or the same way as another diff they've classified. And so I think that is actually a very useful feature. And I believe Andrew in his mock-ups actually had a little like same as above or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that, but I never understood like the use of it. So then when you say these changes that are happening and it's on the same site, it's also on the same page, because during the interval that you guys are checking, I imagine on a page there's multiple different changes, and then all of them could be insignificant. So you're just like, let's just mark them all insignificant, and that's what you mean by copying like what's happening. Is that?
He's talking about different diffs. Like, so if you're in the list view, you're looking at 15 pages from the same domain. Oftentimes the same change will have occurred to each of them because it'll be like a sidebar change. It'll be something in the footer. And so you'll want the corresponding sort of categorization to the next one.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter if that like similar change, it doesn't matter if it happened at like actually different web pages, like it's fine to just copy it. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's only when it's appropriate.
Right.
It's as it turns out, in certain domains it happens very regularly, and in other domains it happens like almost not at all. But it's a feature that gets used, like as opposed to like going and checking individual checkbox. You basically just like a lot of people will do it. They'll go look through 10 pages. They'll know that they're all the same, and then they'll just want to go like. Basically.
Yeah.
That is, I think, to some extent, why it's actually useful to have the different columns in the list view as well, which is something that I think it's hard to decide how to juggle because it definitely gets used in the current workflow. Like people definitely want to see a list of what they've done so far.
Yeah.
For a domain, even though obviously that will be harder to fit into the horizontal space.
What was I going to ask? Like how much, so another thing that we could be added to the UI is like this, like a sorting or organizing of the list view. And I don't know what you guys need to do like when you're processing it. So if you guys can talk about that, that would be great. Like, cause that sounds like something that is a part of that. Like,
right, exactly.
You have like a bunch of lists and you need to move things around, and I don't know like why or what or by what fields and stuff.
No, it's a good point. The way it's organized right now is by diff hash. So yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but essentially we hash the whole diff, and then basically everything is sorted so that all the same diff hashes, like all the entries appear next to each other, and that way, in those cases, you basically just classify them the same because the change was the same. I guess we were talking about Yeah, so that I think that would be the primary.
Well, the proposal, again, this is in the mockup. I don't know how closely you're using it. In the mockup, we actually already thought we'd switch over because the DB will know for free what is the same diff hash. In the spreadsheet mode, we didn't want to go and like manually remove stuff or whatever, but the DB will know that. So the proposal, if you see there's like a diff, there's an identical diffs view basically.
Yeah.
Point being that you would, in your first list view, you would actually only see one sort of member of the identical diff hash set, and then you would only classify once because they would be identical because they are the exact same diff. And then only if you wanted to could you go look and ascertain some details. But basically 99% of the time no one will want to. So the idea was that like don't even present that. So given that that would be the case, then exactly
sorry. Well, what is nobody what wouldn't nobody want to do?
Like if there's 100 identical diff hashes, they wouldn't want to look at the other 99. There's just like no real reason because it's literally the exact same diff.
And then will this ever happen between, so like, EPA climate change A.html and there's EPA climate change B.html. Will those like exact type of changes happen between those different pages, or is it mainly just the same page but all these different changes are happening and they're all like the same insignificant change?
So when you said page at a point where I guess I expected you to say domain. It's within the domain, but it's like 100 different pages.
Yeah.
So the pages between 3 days ago and now will be identical because they changed the sidebar, they changed the header, right? So I'm sure actually across domains, it would also sometimes have the same diff hash, but we're basically saying they should look at it once per domain, which is way less than 100 times per domain. And most often we actually expect it to be within the domain because things like headers, menus, etc. Some stuff happens across many domains, but the vast majority of changes that would happen occurs within a domain.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just to be clear, I think maybe there's a bit of confusion, but when we say diff, that's for the whole, like the diff from the whole screenshot, the whole snapshot, not like a subset of that. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, the mockups, we've been trying to follow it as closely as possible, but like I said, like this identical thing that you just described, like if I never worked the process, I would never understood what that meant.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, I mean, feel free to like poke me or Maya or totally. I mean that's a feature that we don't need to implement, but actually, when we were thinking about it, I think it turns out that the identical diff, like it's just another list. So in fact. The work is being done by the DB. The UI basically doesn't have to do anything there other than have another button that says view all identical diffs. So that's why we figured you're not really designing another view there. You're just recategorizing. But so that does bring the question back, like with how we want to categorize in this list. Now, if that ends up being implemented, then diff hash ordering doesn't really make sense anymore because all that stuff is now, like we're only seeing one of each element anyway. So then maybe there is a better way to list them all out because there might be something more useful.
So the general process then is they're just kind of moving down the line. Well, they probably, they sort it by the diff hash first because they're looking for similar things, and then you're just moving down the line, right? There's no other thing that they're organizing or working about. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But that's not to say that there maybe couldn't be.
Yeah, we'll worry about that when people like ask for it.
But I think that's basically right. Other than the diff hash sorting, which now wouldn't be a thing at all, basically there's no
it's
obvious.
not necessary.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay. I think we can kind of move on. Oh, I had this question where, so like if an analyst, like if they don't complete their task or they have to be reassigned, like what happens there? What's going on?
So right now, if people don't complete their sheets, like we know, but there isn't really anything that we can do about it. And then those changes or those like set of changes are basically either completed late or just not completed for that cycle. And so that's not a great system. usually people try to let us know beforehand if they're going to be out of town, and then there's like some shuffling that happens. But honestly, there isn't a great way to deal with people missing changes, or like missing cycles. One thing that might be useful is like people sign on for a certain amount of time essentially, and some domains just have no changes, and so people are monitoring 8 domains and they're still only spending an hour at a time because there are only 3 changes. And so one thing that might be useful is, rather than having people assigned to like they have their set of domains, right, and then there's like a pool of unchecked changes or something, and like if you only got 10 domain or 10 changes one cycle, but like really you have time to check through 100 changes, then once you complete your domains, you just get the 90 extra domains from, or 90 extra pages from that pool that people like didn't get a chance to check or something like that. And then it defeats the purpose of like having people check the same pages every time. But if this is in addition, it might help catch up on work or something like that.
Well, and I mean, I actually think maybe just from a like human, I don't know, expectation standpoint, we should still assign certain things, but there's lots of stuff that's not getting assigned right now, actually. So what you were saying actually maybe wouldn't be a problem. No one would ever necessarily have to go into other people's work. They could just go into the pool of stuff that isn't yet. So people would still do the same stuff every time. So what you were saying might not even be an issue there.
Yeah. So just creating like a backlog of things that people haven't had a chance to look at. I had a question right now. So once an analyst annotates something and they figure it out whether, like, how often do they actually do they have to go back and like double check things themselves? Like they're just like, okay, I looked at it, delete it, I'm done. Okay. Or not deleted, but like, yeah.
Yeah, nothing's ever deleted. Like all of their history is copied into the same spreadsheet. And so you have a log for the entire time you were checking a certain page. But people don't really go back to that once they've checked through it.
Their individual spreadsheets, when they, the cycle restarts, do they just take, what they need and they just delete everything they've already worked on? Oh, so this is over time it's just building up like entries. Like,
yeah. So nothing is deleted.
Okay.
Which creates these like massive spreadsheets that definitely create problems. But it means that it's not as if like the slate is wiped clean every cycle. It's just copied underneath. So you have the blocks of changes over time.
I think something nice that I thought about this before is like some type of like done like box that we can have so that they wouldn't have to like look through like the first 500 that they already did, and they can just move on to like what hasn't been done. And then all things that aren't done at the end of a cycle can just be like popped into like the backlog, and then anybody that has free time can like start looking through those.
I definitely think it doesn't need to, that is just because we didn't want to delete stuff. We definitely don't want that there. I think another thing I was suggesting is like when you show up, whether there's this dashboard or not, you only see like the sort of current docket, like you're saying, Kevin, and then like I had some suggestion for like a search thing, again, which would just like basically to be able to populate a list view using dates and using a domain, so that if you did want to look at all your old stuff, you could still look into the DB and populate all the old stuff. We definitely do still want that to be accessible, because there are moments where like one of us or someone writing a report will want to go look back at things. So it's not that those records won't ever be used. It's just, as Mai was saying, that individual probably won't use it.
Yeah. There's definitely stuff in the DB API where we can like search by various different things over dates. So I'll add that to the
that's where I was thinking. I think if there's this dashboard or something like that, that might be a good place to just have like a couple odds and ends, one of which could be like a search. And that's also in one of the mock-up views.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I keep saying that. And if that stuff is opaque, just tell me, like, what are you talking about, basically?
Oh, no, most of it made sense, but like I said, the only thing that, like, some of the page history identical stuff, because I don't work the process, it doesn't make any sense, but I was too busy just trying to, like, get a basic UI to, like, worry about asking about that.
That stuff's not really, it makes sense not to prioritize that.
Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, but a searching would be, that's something I can add.
Talking about page history, another thing that would be useful is not just for changes in the same sheet that have the same diff, but if that change has appeared before and you've categorized before, like if you have two sets of versionista sheets and on day one you had like X change and you categorized it, and then on the second cycle you have exactly the same change, either on the same page or on a different page, it would be nice if it like told you that you've seen that exact change before and that you categorized it already. Does that make sense?
I think you're basically saying you want to search the DB by diff hash.
But right now, I don't think it tells, like, I don't think the diff hash is the same for the same change on different days.
For the same.
Yeah. I'm not saying you want to search by what's written. You want to actually search the actual DB by diff hash. Like, you want to hash old diffs and see if they're the same.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that just computationally that will be impossible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it could be an option, but it won't happen in an automated way. It would be like, if you asked it to happen, then it could go do the DB. But if you're suggesting that it comes up every time you open a thing, I think that's basically impossible.
Yeah, well, I was going to say it was probably very, very difficult. Yeah.
Because the diffing procedure is actually a fairly computationally expensive. I mean, it's not, it takes, milliseconds when you're doing one, but if you want to do it over the course of thousands and thousands, I think that would basically be a very expensive thing to do. I mean, unless I'm misunderstanding what you're suggesting.
You don't need to read diff. We're talking about, you can just have a table of what the diffs are and what the categorization for that diff.
Why can't you compare the diff that you have to the diffs that you've previously categorized? Is that, like, you've already done the diffing?
I guess just because there's no history of it. Like, there's no, I don't know. I had to think about it. It's really hard.
Exactly as you said, Maya. Each time we run our script, it doesn't make sure that the diff hashes from last script run are commensurate with the ones from this script run.
Right.
So you have to keep a database of essentially the hash that is not just unique within this particular 3-day cycle, but is a hash for the entire history of us categorizing. And that would take processing time. Like, I guess you could have that running. I mean, I think that's just another feature. Like, I don't think that's something that our current script allows for that exact reason.
Yeah. I'll bring it up with Rob.
No, I mean,
yeah. And see,
maybe it'd be great to have, but
yeah.
If I can just add something, I mean, just thinking about this might be possible because if we have a new diff which is similar to one of the old diffs, and if we have categorized it, so what we basically do is look in the history for those specific category of this, and then sort of match, because that would, if you look through all the diffs which are sort of, I mean, the complete history, that would obviously take a lot of time. But if you just look at that specific category, that might be possible. I mean, I don't know the number of diffs in one category, but yeah, that's something.
The ideal would be for this to happen before categorization, so that you would essentially be able to import the categorization that you previously applied to the new change. Otherwise, you've already categorized it, and then it doesn't really make sense to try and look for if you've seen that change previously. But if it's not possible computationally, then that's not something that's an issue. Like, I don't think it's a must-have feature or anything like that.
Yeah, I feel like there's a great need for just being able to copy annotations based on different criteria. So there's like, if it matches above and below, and then what Maya's suggesting. So I'll keep that in mind, and I'll bring it up to the dev team and see like what they think about it. And we can just kind of move on. But the idea of copying annotations and categories and stuff, that's very important. And then how that can like be applied in different situations, we'll figure it out. Cool.
Just another question. So when you said that nothing is deleted, right? So do you mean that like you guys get a set of diffs and then you sort of try to determine if they are important changes or not, and So like even so, all of them are sort of kept in the history, or is just the important ones? Okay, all of them. Okay,
Everything is kept. Yeah.
cool. Okay.
But that's for free now, right? I mean, if we're doing it in the UI, everything will be stored in the DB. So like, I mean, it was annoying when it was on a spreadsheet, but keeping everything is trivial now. I mean, we're only dealing with thousands of things. We're not going to fill up our actual hard disk space or anything.
Yeah. And like I said, there's easier filtering, so you can just see like what you haven't done yet. So yeah. Let's see if there's anything else.
So for some of these questions, I feel like it might be easiest if I just copy them into a Google Doc and then answer them and then send it back to you, because they're like especially the ones that deal with like account switching or like how do you double check this or something.
Yeah.
So for that, I can just set up a Google Doc, circulate it with the committee, and then we can get it back to you in a few days.
Yeah. Like, well, it's super not important. Like these questions were really just like things that were coming off the top of my head as I was reviewing things. So yeah, it might be more useful just to, like, if I start doing like usability testing where I'm sitting down with an analyst and I have those questions in mind. Like, I don't think you need to worry about answering them, honestly. It's more like just for me, like, okay, when I sit down with a person and then I can kind of like get try to understand their process, I'll have these questions to ask. But yeah, you don't have to answer. So I guess we're making, oops. Oh no. Okay. Am I still here? Can you guys still hear me? Okay. I don't see myself anymore. It's weird. I don't know what happened.
I see you.
Okay.
Can I ask just one other thing? Or sorry, if you're going through a list, that's fine. But
I think there's only one other thing, like notes, I guess, because that's not incorporated anywhere. I guess maybe just like a field for, and when you're looking at a particular change, like the page view or something, just add a note box, and you guys can just a free form note box, and you guys can just put whatever in there. Or is there?
Yeah, it's not used super systematically, and the move towards all these other columns that we were talking about, like these categories, is essentially the move towards limiting that field, that free field, and making a more systematic sort of column usable sort of categorization. But I think that free field is still nice for just like literal notes. Like,
and sometimes people even just like copy in the most significant change on the pages, where they'll be like, this sentence was removed among other things, and then when you're scanning through the notes, you could be like, oh, this is an important one or something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree, it can just be like a text field. I think it doesn't have to be anything other than a text field. No anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to have category. It doesn't have to have validations or anything. I think just a text field is fine.
Okay. So we're reaching the end of the meeting. And I have a couple things as like I think are some good features that we can try to work on. Let me just reiterate them. So one would be the assigning sites thing, where people can, like Maya or whoever, can be like, these people have these sites, and then when they go into the UI, they just see their sites. So that's one. Two would be adding the different classifications. So whenever that's shared to me, that's probably a very simple thing to do. Three is worrying about like copying annotations between diffs changes. And then there was two different, so it's either like if the rows were identical changes, or the second one, which would probably be harder if it was like a diff from previous like analysis from before. So we'll look into that. And then 4 would be a backlog, so people can go back and like things that weren't addressed, they can, like, if they have the spare time, go through that. And the searching, so if people want to search by site and over different time periods, mainly admin, they can do like that type of searching and stuff. Does that sound good? That's like the 5 things that I wrote down.
The copying the row down feature, I think that'll, as part of that, I think the list view needs to have the like the actual categorization there.
Oh yeah,
So that
yeah.
people know to copy it down, which maybe that could be like a thing you click to open up, like, because it'll be a little ugly, add more horizontal space. So I feel like there's different ways to do with that, but I think that sort of necessitates.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Copy down there.
That whole process of just being able to like identify similar classification and copying into another row is this is a big thing. So yeah. Okay. So yeah. Any other? I think that's good. There's a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah.
I just want one minor usability thing. I actually don't know what the answer to this is, but I just want to flag it as a thing. I think now when you click either latest to base or you click for a page view or whatever, you like go over to Versionista. Like it changes your view on the UI and opens up a Versionista page at the same time.
I think I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And like some of that, there might just be some usability. Like we might want to consider maybe it opens up the Versionista page, but you stay on this page. Or anyway, there's some details there. I feel like
it's a very simple thing, and Rob had the same problem. Like it wasn't the correct like event handling. That's all it is.
Yeah, I figured it was. But just like during, like if you're sitting with, if you're sitting with Maya, I think it'll be fine. But if you end up sitting with other analysts, there are people who will have so little experience with software that it's just worth letting them know what can be changed, because otherwise they won't even know what to ask for. Yeah, but I'm sure you've had more experience with that than I have anyway. So.
No problem.
But it might be like something that depends on like how many screens people have, right? Like,
I mean, yeah.
Like I might want it to like pop in another tab, another window, or anyway, we can think about it.
Cool. Okay. Well, I think we're done and on time, and we got everything accomplished. Any final words?
One other thing. Sorry,
Okay.
I had intentionally put off like mocking up an admin side because we were so far away. If A, the mockups are useful, and B, it sounds like we're kind of overlapping into admin work with the assignment stuff. Some of that will be simple, but I can do it just because I sort of already have the aggregated info a little bit, so I can do some of that. But it sounds like we don't quite necessarily, like, it sounds like you have good work to do ahead of you anyway, so you can let me know what you'd like there.
Adding mockups would be great, because one of the issues that was added for the sprint tomorrow is just like having a designer come in and mock up like in HTML and CSS all the different views, because so they can make it look nicer. So if you want to add more mockups, and then there's an issue in the UI, if you want to like comment and add like link to like any additional like screens you create, that would be helpful. Yeah.
Okay, but the paper ones are already linked up. Whoever is
Okay,
cool.
that's already linked up there.
If I have time, I'm not sure I will have time by tomorrow, but if I do, I'll definitely link them in the issue.
Yeah, not a problem. Cool. Yeah, and I don't know how the video, if somebody can just link the videos in Slack somewhere, and then maybe I can go and try to annotate things in my notes, and I'll do that after the meeting too. Cool.
And I'll send over the classifications.
Yeah, if you guys just want to share some like this, like honestly, like all this, like the admin spreadsheet, the domain allocation spreadsheet, like those different things, just so I kind of have a sense of what's in them. That'd be
I'll make a copy of them and just put it in the folder for or something. Yours to have.
Yeah, in lieu of mockups, those will be the best thing, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd be happy to like go through it again with you, or like if you have some questions, we can jump on a call.
Yeah, for sure. We'll schedule it if needed.
Are you going to be at the sprint? Like you're going to be helping run the sprint and actually like?
I don't think so. I don't know. I haven't made plans. I've been just working on all this stuff, so I haven't thought about it.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. You're the best.
Thanks.
And thank you, Shanak, as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jay, for like helping, participating. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. That was great.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Have a good one.